So greetings for the day. I would just like to ask you to write down 2 to 3 questions which come to your mind when you hear the word Bloom's taxonomy, because that will indicate how we are really looking at this particular topic for today's discussion. From this particular session, I expect that all of us rather, would be able to explain the meaning of Bloom's taxonomy, state the purpose of Bloom's taxonomy, describe the levels of cognitive domain, give examples of the different levels of the cognitive domain, categorize different type of questions according to their level, inspect and justify the type of questions according to their level, and we are also able to design questions of the different levels according to the taxonomy. From the outcomes, you must have realized that when we are talking about questions, there are different levels at which we can test our students. If we look at the evaluation process, we cannot look at it in isolation. We need to remember that whatever content we are trying to teach or convey to our students, it has certain learning objectives. We are not delivering the content just for the sake of delivery, but we have certain objective in our mind which we want our students to achieve. Now, this learning objective, for achieving this objective, we plan certain learning experiences. Coordination, we need to plan the evaluation of our students. Unless and until this entire process is correlated, we won't be successful in achieving the learning outcomes which we expect in our students. Remember, the learning objectives are actually seen through the behavior of the students through those learning outcomes. And this is what is the main concern when we are talking of Bloom's taxonomy. Let us first try to understand the meaning of taxonomy. I think most of you with the science background must be aware of this word. The word taxonomy has its origin in science. It is the process of naming and classifying things, or it refers to a specific scheme of classification. For example, when we talk of the concept of education or the field of education, we have different aspects within it, like the educational philosophy, educational psychology, educational management. So we have classified the broad category of education under different things. And even under those disciplines, we have further topics or the content which we divide. Now there is a hierarchy, you will realize, when we are talking of taxonomy. So taxonomy is nothing but a system for naming and organizing the things. This particular taxonomy was formulated in the year 1956, and the basic idea was to think about the higher order level thinking skills of the students. So this committee was headed by Dr. Benjamin Bloom, who was an educational psychologist. And the main aim, as I said, was to promote higher forms of thinking in education. Now what we popularly call as HOTS, higher order thinking skills. So HOTS, the HOTS, and the thought was, see, it has its origin in the year 1956. The focus was on the cognitive aspects. As I said, there are educational objectives and there are instructional objectives. So when we are talking of educational objectives, we are talking of the broader objectives or which we expect in our students. Naturally, we want these objectives to be achieved and to be seen, to be visualized. So we expect that change is seen, is observable to us, and hence we call it as the desired change in the behavior. Instructional objectives are related to these educational objectives, which are very specific and observable and measurable. Say, for example, if we talk of the teaching skills, this would be a broad educational objective for a teacher or to be achieved by a teacher. And what could be the instructional objectives in it? They could be effective communication, which is observable, accurate pronunciation, which could be observable, which could be specific, and which could be measurable. Or if we talk of technological skills, a teacher should have technological skills. If that becomes an educational objective, a broader objective, the specifications or the specific instructional objectives could be that a teacher is able to design an effective PowerPoint presentation, or a teacher is able to effectively make a video, or a teacher is able to effectively handle the different technological material. So this is what I mean when I say that the instructional objectives are specific, are observable, and of course measurable. Again, you will realize that there is a specific hierarchy in its nature. When we talk of taxonomy and when we talk of science, you know, classification of plants, classification of animals, and then you have the broad categories. Under those broad categories, you have further categories, but there is a specific hierarchy, there is a specific sequence. So in a similar way, when we are talking of this taxonomy of education, Bloom's taxonomies of education, we are talking about a specific hierarchy of thinking skills which we expect to be developed in our students. It is basically to bring in precision, accuracy, and set the boundaries for defining our objectives. With this background, let us look at the taxonomy now. What Benjamin Bloom focused was on the three different domains of human learning: the cognitive domain, the affective domain, and the psychomotor domain. When the taxonomy was first put forth, it had these different levels. It began with knowledge, then comprehension, then application, then analysis, synthesis, and then evaluation. So this was the specific hierarchy where knowledge was at the lowest level and evaluation at the highest level. But this particular theory was again released, and a few changes were made in the taxonomy. From the forms of thinking, the shift was to make thinking as an active process. From the nouns which were used in the taxonomy, now the verbs were used. And instead of the words knowledge, comprehension, and synthesis, now remembering, understanding, and creating were the words which were used in the new taxonomy. Thus, the revised taxonomy goes like this: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So, when we are looking at the cognitive domain, you will realize that remembering and understanding are looked at as lower order thinking skills, and applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating are looked at as higher order thinking skills. Of course, all these skills or the development of all these skills among our students is very important. The lower order thinking skills lay down the foundation or the basis for the further learning. So we need to realize that yes, they are also important. But we need not stop over there, because we need to take our students gradually to the creating level. So it is at that level where the students are going to do certain new things. They are going to contribute something on their own. In other words, I would say learning begins with the lower order thinking skills. With applying, analyzing, and evaluating, we help the students to explore, make the students learn to explore, and with creating, we make our students efficient or what I would say ready to do something new, to add something, to develop something, or to contribute something. Now let us look at each of these levels in a sequence. If we look at the remembering level, as I mentioned earlier, it is the lowest level in the cognitive domain. So it involves the ability of the pupils to recall the terms, the concepts, the processes, the methods, the principles, the generalizations, etc., which they have learned. In other words, we can say that this level focuses on the information which the student has gathered, and it is emphasizing also on the memory aspect. So, remembering talks about more about rote learning and memorization. For example, the questions like, which we generally ask in our question papers, enlist the provisions in the economic policy, or quote the prices of sugar during the last 5 years, or state the protocol required for networking, or tell how many KB is equal to 1 MB. You will realize that all these questions are important, yes, but the focus is only on recalling what has been learned. The next level, that is the understanding level, goes a step ahead. It is also the lowest level of the hierarchy. It is concerned with the student's ability to explain what has been learned or to summarize what has been learned in their own words. So you'll realize that we go one step ahead of remembering. So the students become capable of explaining and describing after they have comprehended something. So the questions like, explain in your own words the steps of event management, or describe the functions of a manager, or explain the use of MS Excel in accounting, or compare the human brain with the computer. These type of questions are focusing on the comprehension of the students or the understanding level of the students, and we are talking of the second stage of the Bloom's hierarchy. Going one step ahead, we talk of the applying level. Now here you will realize that we expect the student to use whatever he or she has learned. We are moving from mere theory to the practice part. The student is expected to use the knowledge or understanding of the facts and principles to new or novel situations. He should use the knowledge gained in solving new problems. So applying whatever is learned in theory into the actual life situations or into the day-to-day life. For example, for a researcher, apply the laws of statistics to evaluate the reliability of a written test, or illustrate how Tally is helpful for maintaining accounts in e-form. Now here the student is trying to apply whatever has been learned in theory, in the lectures, in the classroom sessions to the actual field when he or she starts working. The next level is the analyzing level. This category expects the student to break down the information, communication into its constituent parts or elements so that the hierarchy of ideas is made clear and the relationship between them can be expressed in an appropriate manner. The concept is separated into its component parts so that the organization, the entire organization can be understood. So this category of analysis develops the reasoning ability of the learner. Now you will realize that from mere application level, we are moving towards a still higher level, which is analyzing. For example, the question like, examine the impact of COVID-19 on the share market, or compare and contrast between land, man and van, or debate on the online teaching learning practices. Such kind of questions require the analyzing ability of the student to put forth his or her own ideas in an effective manner. The next level is, the evaluating level. So we have gone one stage ahead. This is one of the highest category of objectives in the cognitive domain, and it is concerned with making quantitative and qualitative judgments about the value of an idea, of a work, solutions, methods, materials, etc. for any given purpose. This is concerned with the judgments in terms of internal evidence or external criteria. So you will realize that both quantitative and qualitative kind of judgment is expected. So the individual has to really think in a very, very objective manner. So the questions like, assess the use of blended learning in the context of COVID-19 pandemic, or the questions like, criticize the role of social media in creating social awareness in the current pandemic situation, or justify the importance of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Such kind of questions would make the students judge on the basis of various aspects. They would have to look at the particular concept or the idea from different perspectives and then state their conclusions or their opinions or their views based on all the material or all the ideas which they have gathered. And it cannot be just on the basis of what they think, because it is here that they will have to give a proof for whatever they say. So that is why this particular level requires a lot of thinking on the part of the individual. Next, at the highest stage in the cognitive domain is the creating level. We want our students to create new things, So you will realize that this is the topmost category in the objectives of the cognitive domain. Here, the individual creates something new or novel. It refers to the creation of a product or something that is tangible, which can be seen. So the questions like, develop a need-based program for training the staff of your institution, or create a presentation for marketing a new product, or design a database of your students in Access. Here, what we expect the student or the individual to do is to create something which will be useful, which will be actually brought into practice, and hence it is at the highest level of Bloom's taxonomy. To get a feel of all these levels in a nutshell, I would say that remembering refers to recalling of information. Understanding refers to things like identifying examples, interpreting meaning, explaining something. The applying level focuses on using the information, rules, procedures in new situations. Analyzing refers to breaking of information into different parts and exploring the relationships. Evaluating refers to justifying a decision or a course of action. And creating is generating new ideas or products. Now, you would say that yes, this is fine, but what are the different ways in which we can actually use the questions in our question papers? So, here I am going to present a few of the verbs which you can use for the different levels of questioning. The lower order questions, as we call, which are the big ones and with which we should generally start, are recall and recognize type of questions. After this, we have the middle order questions where we go one step ahead, and it involves questions like transformation, finding meaning, differentiating, or giving examples. And then we have the higher order questions where we expect our students to analyze, evaluate, debate, derive conclusions, or create. So these are the different levels of questions which are expected to be asked when we are designing the question papers. Generally, the verbs which are used, I've given a few examples over here. So when we talk of lower order questions, as you already know now, that they are memory based and they focus on knowledge. So words or verbs like define, describe, list, name, state refer to the lower order questions. When we talk of the middle order questions, the focus shifts a little bit to comprehension, and hence questions like classify, compare, summarize, make use of, etc. are the verbs which are generally used when we write down the questions. When we look at the higher order questions, the focus is on analysis, synthesis, evaluation, and creativity. So the questions should have verbs like relate, or change, or design, or generalize, assess, defend, etc. I'm going to show you a table where the Bloom's taxonomy and the verbs which are associated with it are given. So as I mentioned earlier, when we think of the remembering level, we use words like describe, name, find, list, relate, write. So I think if we look at our question papers, we will be able to realize which level do we test our students on. Then if we look at the understand level, we can use verbs like explain, compare, discuss, predict, outline, restate, and so on in the hierarchy. If we look at the highest level, the creating level, we use words like, or the verbs like plan, invent, compose, design, construct, synthesize. So you will realize that right from the lowest level, we can have questions up to the highest level of thinking. The entire Bloom's taxonomy focuses on this particular aspect of taking our students from the lower level of thinking to the highest level of thinking. There is one more figure which I would like to show you, and in that you will understand that at the center we have the different domains or the levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Then after that, you have certain verbs which are associated with that particular domain. And in the third, that is very important, which talks about student products. I mentioned earlier that when we are talking of Bloom's taxonomy and when we expect that our students achieve the higher order thinking skills, how are we really going to say that they have achieved those skills? Through which particular aspect can we really say that, yes, my students have reached that level? So this is where the students' products come in. So for example, if we look at the application level, we want our students to apply whatever they have learned. A very simple example could be, say for example, they have learned the basics of computer, and now we want them to really find out whether they have learned whatever we have taught. So what we could do is, we could give them activity like develop a puzzle on the topic basics of computers. So the puzzle or the crossword could be developed on say the different parts of the computer, or relating the different parts of the computer with the functions. This is where the student is now applying whatever has been learned in doing a new task. And the puzzle which the student would create or the individual would create would be an evidence that he has reached that particular level. So this is how we are really able to find out whether our students have reached this particular level of thinking. Higher order thinking skills are necessarily to be developed through any course. You will, if you look at the broad objectives, you will realize that that is what we expect in our students. We need to remember that education is the foundation for the future of the country. So unless and until we develop these thinking skills in our students, we as teachers are also not contributing to the society which is expected from us. So in our examination papers, I would say, because the final examination papers would mostly still be in the form of a written test, we need to move from merely asking questions like explain, enlist, or describe, define, locate, or label, write, complete, which are generally on the lower thinking skills, which are focusing on the lower level thinking skills, to asking questions like justify, assess, criticize, compose, design, recommend, plan, or devise. This is about the broad examination paper, which would be a final test, which would be a kind of summative assessment. You would say that yes, we have little control over such kind of situations I would say there are limitations to designing questions on such, what I would say, such level at the end of the semester, because that would be a common exam and it would be mostly in the form of a written test. But all of you have now adopted the choice-based credit system, and the internal assessment is in your hands. You would be able to design what kind of assessments am I going to give to my students. The simplest form of an internal assessment could be in asking the students to design different worksheets based on whatever has been taught to them. You could also ask them to present whatever learning material they have got in a graphic organizer form. That is in a form of a figure. It could be a mind map, it could be a concept map, it could be a tabular presentation, or it could be a Venn diagram. There are a number of ways in which they can, in pictorial form. So that would be one different assignment which you can give to your students. Summary writing is also a very nice way of finding out whether the students have really understood the gist of what you have taught. An interesting internal assessment is in the form of peer assessments. Yes, I would say that you would have to train your students to be what I would say objective when they're doing the peer assessments, but just as one of the kind of internal assessment, I personally feel you could try and use this assessment form. Debates and discussions on various topics. Then we have activities like the Freyer model, where the student represents a particular concept, its definition, its features, its examples and non-examples. So in a typical format. So that is another way of making us to finding out whether our students have really learned what we have expected from them. Portfolios and journals are also different ways. Now remember, journals over here are not the journals which you generally use in teaching in science. Journals are making students write down, it's like a diary I would say, where students start writing down and finding out how they have learned a particular thing, what helped in their learning, or what were the things that made their learning easier. So this kind of writing really starts the thinking process of the students, making him or her realize what are his strengths or weaknesses during the process of learning. And I think that really is a very good form of thinking for understanding your own self. Of course, you have different oral presentations, which could also be used as an internal assessment. And you have rubrics. You can ask your students to prepare rubrics for the different topics which they have learned. Or you yourself could design different rubrics so that you make your students realize that yes, this is where you have done wonderfully and this is where you need improvement. Because rubrics are one such tool which really help a student to understand and differentiate between A category or the O category, outstanding category level of work, and a B or a C category level of work. So using of rubrics in our internal assessments would also really be very useful to you. This could be the different kinds of assessments which you can give in the choice-based credit system, because the choice is yours. In the classroom now, in our day-to-day teaching, can we develop the higher order thinking skills? Yes, we can. With the general questions, yes. But these are some interesting ways in which you can try and develop the higher order thinking skills. Suppose you have taught a particular concept in a session. How carefully the students have listened to what you have said. Say for example, after the session, I could ask you that yes, we have discussed today about Bloom's taxonomy. That was our core concept. Now, write down all the words that come to your mind when you listen or when you hear the word Bloom's taxonomy. So this is where you are being tested for your listening. I would say it's a different kind of brainstorming or trying to summarize from the students what they have learned, what they remember, and what they are really able to explain in their own words. So that's a very interesting kind of activity, interesting kind of assessment, or interesting kind of question, I would say, you could ask in your session. Empty outlines is also an interesting activity. Now, this is similar to fill in the blanks, which we use, but what we need to do is we need to design, say, around 8 to 10 sentences, which would help to summarize our entire session. And we give certain gaps in between to the students. Students have to fill in those gaps. The main reason is they will recollect everything that has been done in the session, and when they are able to complete the empty outlines, you are able to correct them then and there, and at the end they carry that summary with them at home, which would help them to learn better next time they have to look at the concept. 1 minute paper is another such activity where you ask your students to write down one best thing that they have learned in the session and which they remember. From this, you will be able to understand as an assessor what are the things which they have all understood or which are the things which yet remain to be understood. Exit cards is another way of assessing your students, where you can design your own 4 or 5 questions. Say for example, the 3 important things you have learned, the 2 things which you yet feel you have not understood well, or something of this sort. So such type of questions, students fill in those questions and you are able to assess their learning. And students are involved in the higher order thinking. One sentence summary is an effective tool for taking your students right up to the creativity level. They have to write down the summary of the entire session in just 1 sentence. You can understand it would be a very difficult task, because what they need to do in this particular situation or this kind of assessment is they need to summarize first the entire session, maybe in, as was taught to us, maybe in 1/3 of what the number of statements or something of that sort. So say 8 to 10 sentences, and then again those 8 to 10 sentences they need to reduce to say 2 to 3 sentences, and then again reduce to just 1 sentence. So that 1 sentence would be 4 or 5 lines, but it would be an entire summary of whatever was taught, and it would be basically in their own words. So it will be also easy for them to remember. And I think this particular assessment really takes the students right up to that creativity level. You would all say that now we are talking about the new normal. So MCQs would be very, very effective as an assessment tool, or for assessment, I would say, in the online mode. And even in case of MCQs, you can have a variety of questions. So say from type 1, single response, type 2, multiple completion, type 3, relational analysis, and type 4, extended matching. So right from the lowest level to the highest level. Remember one thing, that you can ask MCQs in most of the cases right up to the evaluating level. So from the remembering level to the evaluating level. Asking questions on the creative level may not be very appropriate for the MCQ or the online mode, such kind of activity. But yes, right from remembering level to evaluation level, you can use all these different levels for designing your questions. And you have one session on that, so I'm sure you would be developing such kind of questions. To conclude, I would like to say that education is not filling of a pail, but is lighting of a lamp. What we need to do is light that lamp of objective thinking in our students to make them better future citizens of our country. Thank you.